Welcome, Virgo. This is Regina from Pacific Tarot getting ready to do a reading for this full moon in Aquarius, which is happening almost as we speak. This is affecting you in the usual ways that full moons do. In other words, the sun, our purpose, is in opposition to the moon, the energy and the tools that we came here with, the gifts we came with, and our purpose in this lifetime. So those things are brought to a critical culmination during any full moon. But this full moon in particular also contains an opposition between Pluto and Aquarius, the sign of the full moon. It's actually in conjunction with the full moon. So that's giving a lot of weight and a lot of energy to the area of your life where you're sorting through how you are experiencing well-being, your health, your routines, the way that you're efficient. There may be a big focus on health for you, and also in the opposite direction, because this too is an opposition, the area of the lessons that you've learned from your experiences, how you're surrendering to that, closing that out, ending things in order to begin something new. So Jupiter is in that opposition space in Leo, where you want to expand into the way that you're wrapping up perhaps some behaviors, perhaps some attitudes, actions, or projects, maybe affiliations with organizations that were once central to your professional practice. So there's a lot going on here during this full moon for you that's being highlighted. We're going to start with the crystal spirit, and I pulled for you the blue lace agate. Beautiful, beautiful gemstone. I wish I had real gemstones for each of these cards. This is the closest I can get, but I am going to read to you from the guidebook. Although crystals seem solid and permanent, all things on this earth change over time. Transformation can be slow and nearly imperceptible, but we're always changing. Our lives flow like a river, slowly or quickly, but always in motion. The appearance of blue lace agate spirit calls for you to embrace the possibility of change without stress. You're not too old, too late, too stuck in your ways, too anything. You are enough, and you will have help as you dare to be different and step into a new destiny, finding your purpose with peace in your heart instead of living according to the old patterns probably created long before you even thought about your beliefs and habit systems. Why hold on to a past that causes you stress and anxiety? It's already changing. Impermanence is the nature of everything, and the conscious universe has ideas for how to help you be fulfilled, balanced, and joyful. This is nice energy. I like this for you. And this, again, is really looking at those blind spots, maybe blind spots that you felt you really didn't have time to deal with, or you conveniently isolated or compartmentalized your life and activities and assigned certain behaviors to one and other behaviors to another. So I'm going to now look at the wild unknown archetype, and I pulled for you the shapeshifter. And this is particularly relevant because your ruling planet, Mercury, is the trickster in one of its manifestations. So I do feel that meaning making is intrinsic to whatever you do or however you define yourself in a very real way. So the shapeshifter reads, the shapeshifter has a love of theater, games, and trickery. Its energy appears as one thing only to reveal a more complex story below the surface. The shapeshifter is within all of us to some degree. It's a side of ourselves that's slippery, non-committal, and experimental, and longs to dismiss the rules. We need its energy to adapt to the ever-changing landscape of our existence. When the shapeshifter card appears, it's important to imagine you are looking at life through a kaleidoscope rather than a single focused lens, and at any moment the scene may shift, revealing a more enchanting vision than you imagined. The shapeshifter requires a central pillar of integrity that links us back to our center. And it's interesting that this spectrum of integration relates to, quite naturally for you, Virgo, service, as you are ultimately service oriented versus being a people pleaser. So that's another way that we get lost in the needs and expectations of others rather than in focusing in what we know to be our purpose. So for the present, the World card. How very interesting. The World card is emphasizing precisely this idea of endings, of lessons learned, of the way in which you are being recognized in this moment. You are being rewarded for service completed. Your work is not hidden, it's not invisible, it's for the world to see, and you're being acknowledged for that effort. This feels culminating. This feels like a huge investment in your part of your life. One of the largest investments in your life, and you are receiving your flowers. You're also aware that this is the beginning. You are being prepared for something else. You've chosen something else at this point. So you're relinquishing some of these responsibilities to live in some kind of a new container. And I feel as though this spectrum that you are activating as the shapeshifter is something that you are looking to dissolve. In other words, the compartmentalization of activities depending on where you are or what activity you're doing is something you're looking to integrate within. In the past, the Two of Jades. Yeah, this feels like, as an example, you had one experience, one personality, one set of expectations or environments for your work, and another one for your home or your relationships. That's just an example of the kind of spectrum you could be moving back and forth between. In fact, this is describing some of the professional life or attributes of your professional life that accommodated this at least bifurcation of activities and attitudes. So your work may have included a lot of travel, opportunity for movement, the convenience of having separate locations for things. Perhaps you lived in different states, different countries, or in drastically distant localities that made it easy to have one set of rules and community in one place and another set in another place. I feel that you exhausted what once felt extremely convenient and which allowed and afforded you something you desperately needed, as in, for instance, very hermetic private space in order to do your work, the ability to devote yourself wholeheartedly to your work without having to worry about the impact on others, particularly of children, for example, but on other spouses who may have had, or other partners who may have had other needs, more needs for consistency and closeness. And at the same time, you may have had a relationship life in which you were immersed in your responsibilities as a provider, as an example, and that perhaps leaned into what we might call people pleasing, where you put aside your own desires for a limited amount of time or a set amount of time in order to fulfill that role in a way that was convenient. Perhaps you were co-parenting, or it simply worked as an integration of you and a partner's different schedules. But there, whatever you were doing, a lot of travel was involved, and that, I think, uh, contributed to the deterioration of one or the other. And what I'm sensing here is that work was ultimately more important, or not more important, but you protected the sanctity of that primarily by the time in which you spent with the family, so that it wouldn't interfere with your professional life or your need to travel or relocate as required. And in the future, the Seven of Staffs, yeah, I feel right now that you are recognizing the limitations of this. This may not have developed into a solid or stable relationship or home life in the way that you might have hoped it would, or in the way that you accepted that it wouldn't. This was the only way you could continue a productive relationship with a partner, was through this separate environment for home for both. If you were a teacher, you might have had blocks of time that you could devote to the home that worked well for a partner or for a family unit in which you had responsibilities to other members of the household. I think that what began to fall apart was the sense that you were simply cordoning off aspects of your own needs or desired to fulfill the obligations you felt you had with others. You didn't, on both ends. At work, there was really no need for perhaps the kind of relationship you might have wanted to develop in the past. Now, I'm not speaking about the future here. And the home life, even if the relationship aspect wasn't the central uh, um, motivation in your home life, it still protected you from having to develop that in your work life. It also took away, the home life was robbed to some extent or sacrificed by your attention and devotion, commitment to your working life. So if you're seeing what I mean, this is kind of a seesaw here, where you were never at a stable place. You were at a place that worked for you as a mutable sign. You're highly flexible. You enjoyed the travel. You enjoyed the movement. You enjoyed the ultimate privacy or sanctity of your own working environment at home or at work, that helped you to progress in your career, that gave you the supreme devotion of time on your terms. Um, but I'm also thinking that you protected yourself from greater intimacy, greater relationship development as a result of this dynamic in your life. And you're now in a place of recognizing what that has contributed to, that you now have a need for greater integration in order to close off one or another of these activities. And I'm posing them as two options, but there are infinitely more as you are suiting this to your own situation. But this looks as though you're thinking hard about the way that you could combine the things that you value most. Your work, which I have no sense is stopping, it's ongoing, but you want to do it in this new way in which you're relationship life, your home life is better integrated with your work. So Virgo, if this is resonating with you, please like this video, subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you. I love your comments. I'm going to clarify the Two of Jades with a couple of cards in your past. The Two of Jades, we have the Ten of Wands and the Emperor. Beautiful. And in the present, the World card is clarified by two cards. I have more than two. The Five of Wands, the Page of Pentacles, and for the Seven of Staffs in the future, I have the Knight of Cups and the Ace of Swords. Yes, yes. So in the past, you had a real sense of control over your space in any location, in any environment. Things, despite your bending to the convenience or needs of others and your role as a provider, you felt very in control of your time and resources according to some kind of a flexible schedule or a variety of locations. This gave you a sense that you could focus on what was important to you, what continues to come up for you is the importance of the work that you do, the desire to develop that into the purpose that you feel is yours in this lifetime, to grow this work, grow this body, to make connections, to allow it to evolve in a way that was a satisfying contribution to the world. But what an exhaustion this has been for you. What a weight to carry. It's no wonder that you needed to retreat into some kind of a professional cave, not just to do your work, but to maintain a schedule of moving back and forth into different environments. No matter how convenient or how well it worked, it took a lot of energy. You had to readjust to your responsibilities and obligations in each location, and that feels exhausting. It also feels rather lonely. And I'm not seeing a lot of help here. I'm seeing you providing a lot of help in every location. And some of that is what you do, what you love doing. And the mastery with which you do it is brilliant. But I think it has been exhausting, and you don't want to live that way anymore. And this realization is not new. This is something you've been aware of for a while. But I think in this current moment, you're actually have made a choice, are being celebrated for that choice, are even investigating possibilities for how you can continue your work in other ways that are less taxing to you. But there is a sense that your lifestyle will change, and you're making a decision about that. And it seems that you're really open to simply looking at opportunities in a stripped down environment. So perhaps you're choosing one physical environment over another, but whatever that environment is, you're still seeking to integrate different aspects of your life into this one place. And you're aware that there are opportunities here, but learning how to do this is going to take some effort for you. There's a certain amount of distraction and flexibility that you thrive on. And so the idea that you're kind of looking to simplify and or nail your responsibilities down in the effort to simplify is one that requires a vision for you, an investment for you. And I feel a little bit of trepidation about how you may be losing out by shifting or simplifying your world. And it isn't to suggest that for those of you that integrate travel or a lot of movement as part of your work, that you're giving that up. I don't think you are, but I do think you satisfied that in a way that many people have never satisfied or even dreamed of satisfying, so that you can, through your work, go wherever your research or your questions take you. And that is a beautiful opportunity that perhaps you are making available to others. But you are looking at a more solitary groove that does not exclude other people by no means. In fact, I think you're looking at integrating what you love into your life. In the future, the Seven of Staffs is kind of protection I think you're seeking, trying to figure out which way to go, what makes the most sense, how you can affect the inclusion of what is important to you into a simpler environment. The Knight of Cups shows you opening up to relationships in an important way. This can even be opening up to a passion that you've always had, a talent you've always had, looking to develop that as a result of some kind of insight, some kind of brutal truth that you are allowing into your awareness, into your consciousness, some kind of an illumination. Perhaps you've been studying something that you yourself want to do or have the talent to do, but instead of doing it, you became an observer, a critic, a historian, a philosopher, a teacher. That's an example of the unleashing of this passion that I feel is a desire, but it is about a brutal truth. Perhaps the brutal truth is the lack of investment, of emotional investment in your relationships, so that perhaps relationships in neither or any location really had the opportunity to flourish in the way that you would like to investigate now, in ways you'd like to explore. So this feels like an opening up of some part of you that, despite the variety of your life and your activities, has not been well integrated, and in part because you sort of hid that revelation from yourself. I have no doubt, out of necessity, like there's only so much one person can do. But I do think you're looking at your reticence or hesitance to engage emotionally with others, for lack of space, for lack of time, and in some ways for fear of what would be required of you in terms of emotional vulnerability. I'm going to finish this reading with a botanical inspiration and hope this has been insightful. Okay, a couple flip, but I'll take the yellow rose. I like that. And the other was the pink rose. So the yellow rose feels more related to this mercurial Virgo that I'm speaking to. The two words are enthusiasm and friendship. And the quote is, "A single rose can be my garden, a single friend my world." Wow. That feels like a clue. Feels like a clue as to the way in which you want to invest your passion, your emotions, your creativity, your imagination. So this is really beautiful omen for you in many ways. Thank you so much, Virgo, for this beautiful reading. Until next time, namaste.